we've elected a leadership that is diverse. We certainly set ourselves on a course towards two things really. The first is about the absolute resolute commitment to building a non-racial party, a party that doesn't mobilize on the basis of race, but a party for all South Africans. This Congress launched our values, which are epitomized by freedom, fairness, and opportunity. And we want those values to be the bedrock of what South Africans celebrate, something they aspire to, and those who share values need to come with us. The second of those objectives is that we must be a party that is growing. And so it was significant to have a Congress here at Mmusi Maimane, and perhaps much less known, or will soon be well known, not famously, but my friend here, Ethel Trollope, who has just been elected as our federal chairperson, also is our mayoral candidate here in the city. And we want to ensure that we become the government here, and we strategically set our objectives towards governing more metros in Gauteng, and certainly retaining the ones we do. So it is significant, and I want to thank everybody for coming through here, and I congratulate the entire new leadership, and say election 2016 starts first thing tomorrow morning. Let's not, I think what we mustn't do is say that to suggest that people exist within a family is illiberal. I think Patricia Terrell argued that point quite strongly yesterday. We still stand for the rights of individuals. We accept that those individuals live within certain structures. And I think the document makes that quite clear. The document furthermore does not even prescribe what the type of family must look like. It argues the case that either a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, whatever the construct is, a single mother, single fathers, we have different constructs of families. So I don't think the document is illiberal in the way that they were arguing. It's simply understanding that the fact that liberal politics in South Africa, and certainly globally, I engage with the question about saying, how do we deal with constructs such as race? How do we deal with constructs such as religion? Even as an example, if you go to Europe, I just came back from the Liberal International Congress. The argument there is, how do you deal with people who are organized on the basis of religion? I don't think that's illiberal to ask the question. It's important to be able to put that forward. It's been adopted as part of our constitution. It doesn't suggest that our constitution is dead. It becomes something that we live by, and we guide our policies on that basis. It's something that's really working. That's why I think we must continue. The dialogue will continue. I think that's an important question, and I'm glad I'm trained to have my phone here with me, otherwise I'll also be tweeting. But let me just also say that it isn't a correlation that says black people vote for black leaders. The correlation isn't there, because it's true that in other political parties that are also black-led is not a guarantee for growth. I know, as I sit here, that the only way the DA is going to grow and win is going through blood, sweat, and tears. It's got to be the hard work that we put as activists in communities, day in, day out, making sure that we turn out to vote, we grow in new communities. And I certainly want to be at the forefront of that. I want to put an eyes into an election campaign so that we grow up. But let me also say the second thing. You asked me the demographic question about rural communities versus urban communities. Here in the Eastern Cape, for example, I've seen some tremendous growth in rural communities. Because rural South Africans also have issues or challenges that they have with the ruling party. There are South Africans there who don't have running water. Right there. So those challenges exist. And South Africans recognize the fact that they also require a government that is capable and able to deliver to them. We've gone out and we work with where South Africans will share our values. That's the last point I want to make. Because this values issue is absolutely critical. Because we've got to find those South Africans. They're out there. We know our potential is there with South Africans who share those values regardless of where they come from. Helen Zille has one vote in this Congress. The delegates have the right to vote for their leader. My relationship with Helen is actually quite good. I've enjoyed working with her, even as parliamentary leader. Because one thing I know of Helen, and I think that's a story that's untold. Others want to call her all sorts of things. They want to call her a dictator. But one thing I know for a fact about Helen is that she lets people get on with it. That's been the nature of my relationship with her. We meet occasionally, we discuss what's happening with Parliament and the party. And so we carry on. That's why I respect her, because she's the ultimate person who sits back and says, if you've been elected to a leadership position, you must get on with the job of doing that position. And that you can ask any provincial leader or any other person.
In terms of what you've been saying, if it should turn out that a year down the line after the 2016 local government elections, you have not achieved what you say today you will achieve, will you resign?
I think, let me make it an easier one and say, let me deal with today the fact that I've just been elected as leader. Today we're already planning an exit strategy.
Then I think, first of all, as a South African, know the work of Alistair Sparks. He's a seasoned journalist. He's written some very profound things. He's fought against apartheid. And I think yesterday he came to pay tribute to Helen Zille. I disagree with his comment on Verwoerd, but then I'm entitled to have my own view as he's entitled to have his own view. But I think without fail, we should never sit down and say that someone like Alistair Sparks, who's fought against Verwoerd, in fact supports his policies. I think, as I sit here today, Verwoerd's policies are deplorable. They were evil. And as I sit here, and I think as a party, we've been quite clear in saying that we deplore the policies of government. So I think the issue here can be interpreted in many ways, and I think we can define this in opinion, we do. But I think we must never forget the fact that here's a South African who served the people and has fought against apartheid, equally so. On the second issue, which is about dislodging the ANC, you would have noted that today we spent quite a significant amount of time building on a values-based charter. This Congress adopted that values charter. And it will be the message we will take to every single province. Because we want to focus on speaking more about what the DA does and less about the ANC. The invitation to a non-racial South Africa is an invitation to all. There are some people who are still in the ANC who must come to us. Because they recognize the fact that we'll be building on that dream, fighting for an economy that includes more people rather than is exclusive. Policies that set South Africa on the right course than the other way. So the issue here, as Avanza, is about articulating that vision. It's about working hard with activists on the ground to make sure you invite more people. And I'm certainly comfortable in the fact that as we've seen growth, we were the only party who's grown since 1994, and we'll continue to do so, mainly because we'll put activists on the ground, we'll put more people on the message of where we come from. And I believe there are South Africans who share those values that still may not yet vote for us, but I believe will soon, as we get on the campaign trail and share those values with them, will come on board and support us. So I'm certainly looking forward to that opportunity, and I believe those South Africans are out there, they are ready, and they are welcoming to our values charter.
The first thing on the to-do list is to get over Congress. It's been a grueling campaign, so I'm really keen to get over it. But look, we have an administration that came before that at two different places. There was a team that worked with Helen, there was a team that worked with me. So now there's a work that we've got to bring those two teams together. Obviously, the second objective is to go out to see as many provinces as possible so that we can meet with all the provincial leaders. And then ultimately, the thing that keeps me awake is, in thinking about this job is obviously how do we. I was glad today, I was quite surprised actually that I won the fundraising award. I didn't expect that in the least bit. I was. So I think it's about making sure that we've got the capital resources to contest for the election coming up next year, because it's going to be an expensive one and we've got to go out and raise that money. So I want to get my hands fully dirty on that issue.
The DA is not a party for racists. If you're a racist, you mustn't be in the DA. Join another party. Our party is for people who believe in a reconciled, non-racist South Africa. That's why they elected the leadership they have elected today. That's why equally so when we build, we talk about values. Those values transcend race. They sit down and somebody says, when you want a society that is fair, that's not a function of a particular race. That's a particular value system that you say, I want this country to be free of corruption. I want a country that whose leaders serve the people. So those values are non-racial and they transcend. They're not classist. And I believe when we unite behind those values, we can sit down and say, we will build a party for all South Africans. And I think I've highlighted the point that in fact, this is not a party for racists. So if you are a racist, homophobe, any of that sort, I think you must join another party. I think another thing that's also vital is that our operation remains intact and led quite exceptionally by Paul Bowie. So I think what we've got to do going forward is continue the momentum. We'll certainly be launching our election campaign, etc., etc. So I think a year is about sufficient. We'll take the journey forward and then ultimately begin to prepare for 2019. We're not a party that purges people. I'm grateful for the results because I think we carry an overwhelming confidence of the Congress, which is very helpful when you come out of a contestation such as we had. Because I think it was actually quite an overwhelming result by the delegates out there today. I've already said that I'll be going out to as many provinces as we can. Because ultimately we don't unite behind a person. We unite behind values and a vision for this party. I'm not building a party for Mmusi Maimane. I'm building a party that shares those values of freedom, fairness, and opportunity. So ultimately, it's a work now of going out, meeting as many of the delegates as possible in their respective provinces, and inviting them to that value process, to the vision of this country, so that we can all unite behind that. And I know DA people, and I think that a majority of those who voted for us have a confidence in saying we want to go out and win elections and we'll set our goals and go forward. So I'm quite confident that we'll go forward. As for what Dr. James and anyone else does, I think we've got to negotiate that as we come out, because I can't prescribe today what his respective role will be. One of my greatest heroes in this country, I think for all of us, someone like Nelson Mandela. And that today, I think we can't, when we begin this chapter, one of the things I'm most delighted about that is that we're a diverse leadership. And I think that's a dream that President Nelson Mandela stood for. And so I don't come here today. Tomorrow a leader of a different race may emerge. But it's part of the fact that I think as a party we sat down and we said we wanted to elect a diverse leadership. We wanted to see a new leader come on board. I have a tough task ahead of me, ahead of Helen Ziller. I bring a different story because of my own race and background, as she does. But it just begins a journey where we can build and reconcile non-racial South Africa. And so I can never be more delighted that this is the party that espouses that value and still is the champion of that. So I guess in some ways the significance has to be this, that with President Nelson Mandela's passing, his values of a reconciled South Africa and non-racial will remain alive, certainly in our party, and something we'll champion going forward.